How do you differentiate then? If you're saying, okay, you want it to be more, you want your attention to be on the more forward thinking project, strategies and priorities, but there's many things up front that might be a burning fire, right? Like, what about a client complaint? You know, if a how do you decide what do I dive into in the near ground and what should I actually stay away from?
And if we could answer that question, Gordon, if we could get that precisely answered, exactly right, we could retire tomorrow, because the demand for that one is huge, and it is impossible to figure that out. But I thought you might ask me this, so I remembered a experience in my own life that kind of, I think, illustrates the way I would want a CEO to observe that. So as you know, and the audience may not know, in my primary role at the Advisor Institute at AllianceBernstein, I am a keynote speaker. I do talks all over the country. It's not uncommon when in pre-pandemic times, I might be 4 days on the road, and I might do 15 or 20 presentations in different places. Sometimes I'll do 3 conferences in a day in different parts of the city, branch meetings, et cetera. Well, years ago, I was, this is probably 8 or 9 years ago, I was asked to go to California, very long trek to get to California, very early morning meeting. The host of the meeting didn't understand I had been sent there by the CEO of his firm to do a particular thing as a favor to the CEO. I was doing this person a favor, but the host of the meeting wasn't read in on it and screwed up the process. And I eventually had to go to him and say, look, here's why I'm here. Here's what I'm representing. I have to speak because my plane leaves in X. I'm doing somebody a favor. So it was a very awkward kind of start to the talk. And it was a big group of advisors. And I did a talk I was doing a lot of. And because I started kind of off balance, the group didn't have an experience of my good humor. So they had this experience of this kind of stern, hurried, annoyed person, which I can be, hopefully not often, right? But I kind of got into the talk and I started warming up, and I thought the audience was more or less with me, and I think most of them were. And there's one part in this little talk that I told a joke on myself. And it had to do with the fact that, I wasn't sure if because I've been on the road so much, the locks might be changed on the door when I get home. Right? And there's more to the joke than that, but it fit the context. But I wanted to make sure in this moment, I just want to make sure it was a bit of a joke on me, but it involved my wife at the time. And so I do the talk, I finish, I pack up, I go away. It takes 3 days. I'm back in New York, and I happen to have a meeting with my boss. It's maybe a week later. And my boss says, oh, I got a call from so-and-so, the regional manager for such and such firm. Apparently you told a joke. A member of the audience didn't appreciate the joke, and they wanted me to make sure you knew that you were out of line in telling that joke. And now what had happened was somebody had taken umbrage with me. That happens, right? Had ramped it up to their branch manager. The branch manager had ramped it up to the regional manager. That had magnified, gone over to my boss. Now my boss is coming back to me, and he sternly reminded me that I needed to watch how I told jokes because they can be misinterpreted, and et cetera. Now, at that time, I was 15 years older than my boss. I'm doing 5 or 6 talks a day. I've done over 10,000 talks just in the last few years at AllianceBernstein, let alone what I did before that. I have the highest rating of speakers, and no one ever takes offense at my jokes because I tell very few and they're never off color. It was a completely ridiculous thing for him to do. Now, why am I telling that story? Because he had lost his way and was reacting to the fact that somebody called him and complained about this joke. And rather than stopping and looking and saying, do we have a joke problem here? And deciding, was it worth the attention and the tension that it created? as a leader, right? What happened in that moment is he lost my confidence. Now, I looked at him and I said, I don't have confidence that you're sorting out information as a leader should, so that when you do speak to me, the first thing I'm going to think of is, do I even need to listen to what you're saying? Why? Because he didn't filter it. He didn't look at it and say, in this world of what I'm managing, and as I know what's going on with this person whose ratings are off the charts, this is not a problem. And so the first thing I would say to what you're talking about is, when things are on fire, the question is, what should the CEO be thinking about that? If a client is complaining, should the CEO race in? Well, maybe what the CEO should do is, if the advisor feels it would be helpful, the advisor can request the CEO make an outreach to this individual. But if the CEO is finding themselves doing this over and over again, then what I would suggest to you is, you don't have a client complaint problem, you have an advisor management problem, and you define your problem so that it makes sense for you to be addressing it in what way. You don't want to be called in 5 times a week to deal with angry clients. You want to stop whatever's causing the angry client, right? And you want to look and see, what is my problem? So the most important thing for a CEO to do, because they are always going to have limited span of attention, and that's always going to be the case. There's a limited amount of rational energy that the brain has to work on. The first step every CEO should take is, especially if something is activating them, there's anxiety coming up, is to ask themselves the question, what is the actual problem we have here? And that question should be set in the context of a famous quote by Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to save the world, I would spend the first 50 minutes defining the problem. Because any problem, accurately and adequately defined, will tend to yield an obvious solution. But if you're not clear about what problem you have, and you jump in reaction to the fact of, oh, somebody told a joke, I need to nip that in the bud, you can create more of a problem than you're actually solving, because you didn't ask the question, do I actually have a problem here? Or was this just some annoyed person talking to some harried person, talking to some authoritative control freak, and do I need to just stop that and not metabolize it and hand it off to my own person? A great leader metabolizes a lot of the reactivity of their organization and pays attention to and speaks to and works on and worries about and feels the burden of those positive forward moving items rather than the reactive stuff in the world. Now, look, that is to say, however, that as I said, if you have 5 complaints a week that advisors are saying, hey, could you call this client, could you call this client? After 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say, okay, what's my problem? My problem is not complaining clients. My problem is somehow my advisors are not creating the experiences that keep clients very happy. Let's start looking at what the actual problem is here. And that's tricky. It's not easy necessarily to get clear about it, but it allows the CEO to raise up above reacting. If there's a lot of distrust and disagreement among staff members, a lot of times it's like, oh, we have personality conflicts. Almost never is it a personality conflict. It's usually something else. So if they can just pause for a minute and say, okay, what is the problem that I have here? What am I actually looking at? And again, keep out of it enough that you can look down and say, okay, where is the issue here? And for example, this is something that's very true among some of your teams. I know this. You have an advisor and a long-standing sales assistant. Almost like that symbiotic kind of powerful. We finish each other's sentences. Like the partner at work as opposed to the partner at home, right? All right. So the advisor joins a larger group, and now or they let's say they take in a couple of practices and grow kind of inorganically, they grow by acquisition, and now they have a larger platform of clients and they need to hire 2 more support staff. And so now you have longstanding, very senior support staff, 2 new support people, one of which has maybe some superior talents, really great to have acquired this person. All of a sudden, there's all kinds of conflict between the 3 of these support staff, right? Do you have a personality problem? No, you have a sense of this partnership of 20 years has now been diluted in 3, and this person is feeling like they've lost something. That's your problem. Now, there's various ways of dealing with that, but if you assume that somehow it's a personality conflict, and you go and you get your DISC or your Myers-Briggs or so, let's come in and we'll work out our communication. It's not a communication problem. It's a hurt feelings problem, right? So again, it's stuff like that if the CEO can get away from the reactive moment and maintain their attention on the bigger pictures and the question, what's the actual problem here? And do I in fact have a problem, or is this somebody else's problem that needs to be worked on? Now you have a mind that's leading from the right point of view.